Place one.
It is now 5 o'clock.
Oh,
I call to order the meeting of the City Council of the City of Victorville. In the City Council sitting is the Library Board of Trustees, Southern California Logistics Rail Authority, Southern California Logistics Airport Authority, successor agency to the Victorville Redevelopment Agency, the Victorville Joint Powers Financing Authority, the Victorville Water District, and the Victorville Housing Trust. May we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Kennedy,
Here.
Councilmember McEachron,
Here.
Councilmember Negretti,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cox,
Here.
Mayor Garcia.
Here. This is the time and place for the general public to address the City Council on any item listed or not listed on the agenda. However, I don't see anyone here that wants to address the council at this time. Therefore, we will have declaration of closed session items by our city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. We have 7 items listed on the regular agenda, and there is an 8th addendum item, closed session matter. Items A and C are existing litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 D1. It is the SEC versus City of Victorville litigation. A is on behalf of the Airport Authority, and C is on behalf of the City Council. Item B is real property negotiations pursuant to Government Code 54956.8. Pertains to Building 681 at Southern California Logistics Airport. Negotiating parties are ComAv LLC and Mr. Metzler on behalf of the Airport Authority. Item D is public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code 54957B, and the title is City Manager. Item E is a City Council item for anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 D4, one potential case. F and G are related. They are also existing litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 D1. That is the name. The name of the case is DeSwart versus Victorville Water District et al. And item F is on behalf of the City Council. Item G is on behalf of the Water District. The case name and number is set forth on the agenda. And lastly, the addendum item is on behalf of the Airport Authority, and it is anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 D4. Pertains to one potential case. To the extent there is any reportable action, we will report it either at the conclusion of the closed session or at the commencement of the regular session at 6 o'clock.
Thank you. We will now recess to our closed session. The regular session convenes at 6 p.m. And I call to order the meeting of the City Council of the City of Victorville. In the City Council sitting is the Library Board of Trustees, Southern California Logistics Rail Authority, Southern California Logistics Airport Authority, successor agency to the Victorville Redevelopment Agency, the Victorville Joint Powers Financing Authority, the Victorville Water District, and the Victorville Housing Trust. May we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Kennedy,
Here.
Councilmember McEachron,
Here.
Councilmember Negretti,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cox,
Present.
Mayor Garcia.
Here. May we have our closed session announcements by our city attorney, please?
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. We had 8 closed session items this evening. They're all set forth on the agendas. Items A and C were existing litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 D1, and the case was the SEC versus City of Victorville. The case number and title is set forth on the agenda. Item B was real property negotiations pursuant to Government Code 54956.8. The parties and the property in question are set forth on the agenda. Item D is public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code 54957.B. Position City Manager is the title. Item E was anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 D4, one potential case. Items F and G were related. It was existing litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 D1. And then there was an addendum item on behalf of the Airport Authority, which was anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 D4. There is reportable action with respect to that item. The council, by unanimous vote, has agreed to a settlement of anticipated litigation between the Airport Authority and Kinder Morgan. The agreement pertains to an ongoing lease arrangement for property at the airport, whereby Kinder Morgan was responsible to clean and remove prior fuel tanks. That process took longer than anticipated, and so in lieu of paying amounts owed under a contract for rent, Kinder Morgan has agreed to pay the city an amount of $150,000 as settlement for all potential amounts due. It avoids the city going to litigation, and again, it was a 5-0 vote of the council to settle with Kinder Morgan.
Thank you. At this time, we will have the invocation, which will be delivered by Minister Bessie Cox of Burning Bush, and after that, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Police Chief Sam Lucia. Please stand.
Heavenly Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you for another Tuesday meeting. At this time, Father, I ask that you touch each and every council member that's represented here, Father. I ask that you bless their families while they're here. Protect their homes while they're here, Father God. I ask that you be in their decision making when it comes to making decisions about this great city. Allow our city to be a light that sits on this hill so that people can see the good that's done here, Father. Oh, Heavenly Father, not only our council members, I ask that you bless our police officers, Father, who are committed to serve and protect this city, oh God. I ask that you bless our firefighters, Father, who rescue, Father, and put out fires, God. I ask that you bless our military, Father, who protect this nation, oh God. We just thank you right now. Oh, Father, there's an emblem here that says that in God we trust. And we're trusting in you right now, Heavenly Father, to be in our decision-making, Father. Be in the council members' decision-making, Father. Everything here, Father, that goes forth this evening, oh God, I ask that you bless it, oh God. Bless each and every one that's represented here, oh God, in the name of Jesus, I ask and I pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do have two presentations this evening. I will come down and do the presentation. Oh, there is Miss Dana Armstrong, my precious friend. We have a proclamation to Dana Armstrong, 2015 Victorville Recycles Week. On behalf of the City Council, I would like to present you with this proclamation proclaiming the week of November 2nd, 2015 as Victorville Recycles Week. Would you like to say a few words?
Of course. Thank you very much. Yes, every year, here, let me get that for you. Every year in November, we have Victorville Recycles Week, and the goal of the week is to call attention to the city's recycling programs and encourage residents to participate in those programs. In the proclamation, I had noted one of the things is that city residents and businesses disposed of over 70,000 tons of trash last year, which may not seem like a big deal until you realize that it cost over $2.7 million to dispose of that trash, and that cost was directly paid for by residents and businesses. So by recycling, we can reduce their costs, and that's good for residents and businesses. Our main focus during this week is on the schools. We have a partnership with Victorville Disposal where we sponsor a contest with the local schools, and they do various recycling activities, earn points, and compete for cash prizes. And so this year we have 17 schools signed up so far, and I'm very excited to report that we have 6 of the middle school and high schools signed up, which is fantastic. We're going to have a poster contest, sculpture contest, assemblies, in-class presentations, a YouTube contest, all sorts of great things. And starting the week of November 12th, go into the lobby of City Hall and you'll see all the recycling sculptures, which are always a lot of fun to see what the kids have done. So we'll be back in January to award the prizes, and I thank the council and Mayor Garcia for your time this evening and for your support of the recycling program. Thank you very much.
The next one is our chief, Sam Lucia, and I think he has a report on Raider.
Good evening, Mayor Garcia. This is one you can enjoy from your seat. We have a little presentation that we're going to show you. I know the agenda says that I'm giving the presentation, but I'm not. Actually, I'm going to introduce Deputy Antonio Higuera. He's the deputy that we chose to be the handler for Raider, the canine that will be here in late January. And he's going to take a few minutes and give you an update on Raider.
Thank you, Chief. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I'm just going to introduce myself real quick. My name is Deputy Antonio Higuera. Just a brief background on myself. I graduated the academy in 2006 from the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. From there, I was assigned to the West Valley Detention Center. I worked there for 8 months until I was transferred to the Hesperia Station, where I worked patrol for approximately 8 years. I was currently assigned to the Victorville City Station and chosen to be the handler of this beautiful animal I'm about to talk about. This is Raider. He's a purebred bloodhound. He was born on February, it says 7th there, but it's the 16th. He was bred from Hanson Hounds, who are based out of Iowa. Raider is the one on the far right, the dark one. Those are his 2 sisters. These 3 were selected out of a litter of 7 to become law enforcement officers. On the right-hand side, this is Raider's father, Zeus, and on the left, the left one is Zeus. The one on the right is the mother, Ellie. Raider and his 2 sisters were selected by Jeff Shetler, who is based out of Georgia Canines. His facility is in Edisto Island, South Carolina. He has over 25 years in law enforcement canine experience and training. He's a retired canine handler from Alameda Police Department. He has also worked with several other agencies, including the FBI. He's also certified as a military trainer, and he's the author of 4 canine books. Raider started his training at 8 weeks old. His training consists of your normal obedience training as well as tracking and trailing. They work through many types of environments, including wetlands, wooded areas, residential, hard surface. They're exposed to several types of distractions, such as other animals, people, vehicles, and also gunfire. I'm going to play a short video here. This is Raider at 11 weeks old. And the reason I chose this video is it's actually narrated by the trainer, Jeff, who speaks really highly of this dog, and I just wanna
Okay, folks, welcome to another GA Canine trailing video. We're going to introduce young Raider to you. He's an 11-week-old bloodhound phenom pup. This little boy kicks ass. This is going to be an amazing dog. I haven't seen any puppy at this age work these distances with this much focus. Enjoy.
that little white object that that you saw there on the ground, that was a scent article. And just he takes a brief scent at that article, and he's on the track, he's on the trail, and it's not long before he locates the subject. Every now and then he comes back and looks around, and it seems like he's lost or doesn't know what he's doing, but I mean, he was only 11 weeks old, he's a puppy, and puppies like to play, but this is him just working it out and learning on his own pretty much. What he's doing there, he's trying to work himself out of a scent pool, which is pretty much a pool of the human's odor that's just been gathered in that little corner right there. But once he found the exit trail, he gets back on it. There he found it.
Oh, yes!
Sorry. The first week of September, I flew out to South Carolina and met Raider for the first time. While I was out there, I was able to bond with him a little bit. I ran some trails with him, and he was also introduced to the other members of the San Bernardino County Canine Unit, which are Ellie, Deja, and Dare. Ellie is from the Victor Valley Station. The two other bloodhounds, Dare and Deja, are from the Rancho Cucamonga Station. And there from the left over is Ellie with his handler, Dave Moyer, myself and Raider. Canine Dare with his handler, Ryan Gerard, and Canine Deja with his handler, Josh Stone. Picture there on the left-hand side is one of my first trails with the Raider. Just another quick video here. This is actually my first time handling a Raider.
So what I want you to do if a car comes by is I want you to just rappel up that leash a little bit and then get maybe halfway distance, just so if he decides to pop in the road, that you can stop him from doing it. One of the things that happens when a car goes by, leave that, get to work.
Leave it, get to work.
Oh, he's peeing. One of the things that happens when a car goes by is it can bring the scent. Leave it, get to work. No, 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 get to work. Just hold him, wait. Okay, you can go with him now.
Again, he's a puppy, so he'll still pick
Go.
up random
Go.
objects off the side of the
Barney's
road.
using it for a pipe. Okay, his head's starting to come up. Good. Really nice work. Take your time, no hurry.
A few yards ahead, the trail actually crosses the road, and when the instructor there, when he's talking about the dog's head popping up, the dog can
Head's
smell the
coming up
trail on
again.
the other side of the road. But
Head's
he still
coming
knows
up
that there's
again.
still the trail in
Get
front
up a
of him
little
as
closer
well.
behind him. There you go. Good. Right there. Perfect. That's a good space. Okay, good. See how that changed? Look at that. Watch him. That's a road crossing. This is where it was. This is where he picks it up. The apex of the turn is behind the road crossing this time. Get behind your dog. Why don't you go fix that leash real quick? Get it out from underneath his neck. Tell him good boy. Tell him good boy.
Jeff has also
Good
trained and
boy.
certified
There you go.
the
Just
other
wrap
4
it.
hounds in our department.
There you go. Nice work.
He crosses the road one more time, and then he finds the guy. So. Raiders' duties will consist of helping deputies locate fleeing suspects, missing children, critical missing adults, subjects who suffer from dementia, Alzheimer's. They'll also participate in school events and any other type of city or department functions. Right now, Raider is 8.5 months old. He's in his 3rd trimester of training, and he is expected to join our station late January or early February. Raider will be sworn in, like any other deputy sheriff, by our sheriff, John McMahon. We're not exactly sure when this will take place or where, possibly the Victorville State of the City address in February at the VMI. A few more photos here I want to run through. His 2 sisters again. Rain and Storm are their names. They're also at the same facility as Raider is right now. This is one of his other trainers out there in South Carolina. That's it. Thank you for your time. Do you have any questions?
How'd you get to be the lucky one?
When the position was brought up to the department, a countywide memo was sent out. Anybody who was interested submit a memo. From there, the selection process was narrowed down to about 13 individuals, I think it was, And from there were a series of oral interviews, and I was blessed with the position. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Wonderful.
Doug, I agree. State of the city, that ought to be the appropriate place to swear him in.
That's what we're trying for.
All right.
Okay, now we will continue. May we have our city clerk present the agenda to the council and any revisions to the agenda?
The City Council of the City of Victorville welcomes the public's participation in tonight's meeting. Persons who wish to address the council on a specific item or any item that does not appear on the agenda are requested to complete one of the white speaker cards located in the council chambers lobby and give it to the city clerk prior to the meeting. The mayor will call upon each individual who has submitted a speaker card. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.3, state law prohibits the council from addressing any issue not previously included on the agenda. The council may receive testimony and set the matter to a subsequent meeting. Comments are to be limited to 3 minutes per speaker or less as deemed necessary by the mayor. Communications are to be addressed directly to the city council. Individual comments to staff or members of the audience are not permitted. Any individual or group who engages in disruptive conduct during the meeting will be removed from the chambers by order of the mayor. Thank you for your cooperation. All documents to be considered for approval at this meeting are before the council, and there are 2 revisions to tonight's agenda that have been made available to the public and are on the dais for the city council. The first one is a letter that has been submitted this evening concerning item A1, the appeal hearing. This is a letter submitted by the appellants. The next one is a letter submitted in regards to item number B1. It's from the Building Industry Association in support of adoption of ordinance number 2346. And those are all the revisions I have, Mayor Garcia.
Thank you. Now we go on to the appeal hearings. And item A1, this is a continuation of PLN 15-00030, an appeal hearing to hear arguments for and against the Planning Commission's decision to uphold the previously denied decision by the zoning administrator. Case admission 15-00048 is set forth in resolution number 15-064, entitled A Resolution of the City Council of the City of Victorville denying appeal case PLN 15-00030, thereby upholding the Planning Commission's and zoning administrators' denial of case Edmund 15-00048 a minor conditional use permit request for alcoholic beverage sales in conjunction with a convenience store which does not comply with Victorville Municipal Code standards on property located at 14592 Palmdale Road, Suite 9 and 10. Do I open?
Yes, it'd be appropriate to open the continued public hearing and take any testimony from the public, the appellant.
I open the continued hearing, and I do have one card at this time, and that's from Cedars Market Inc. Father Anastasi and Yilda Yusuf. You can come up.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. I just want to give you a small background before we read this letter. I'm a monk from St. Anthony's Monastery, or Christian Orthodox, and my monastery is in Newberry Springs, an hour north from here. And I was the abbot of the monastery from 2006 until 2012, when my monastery became part of our diocese. So I was leading the monastery. And this young man came to me in 2007, Yalda. He's the owner of Cedars Market. And he was my right hand, really, at the monastery because I travel a lot. and I tested him in many different areas, whether it be, cleaning or cooking or some construction work or just many different things around the monastery. Of course, he stayed for 7 years at the monastery, and not everyone can become a monk. So he wanted to continue his education. So we're supporting him. He's attending Brandman University here in Victorville. And he opened a business and he moved here in Victorville because it's close to the monastery, and it's actually his business is very close to our local parish, and he wants to be close to the church. So when he was looking for a place, he of course he's limited by his finances, and he chose the place where we're at now. And we were under the impression, I'm the CEO of Cedars Market. I'm not an owner, I'm just here to support him until he's able to get on his feet and thrive. And so we were under the impression that he can have a convenience store here, and many people told him that he'll probably only succeed if he can sell beer and wine. It's not necessary for him to sell hard liquor, and he's not interested in that. He just wants to succeed. So we found a place that used to have in the complex a convenience store, and they sold liquor, but they closed. And there's no other place in the whole area that has a beer and wine for sale. So after he signed the lease and he started purchasing materials so that he can have his walk-in cooler and start preparing the place, then he came to the city and they told him that he is not able to sell beer. So we thought of appealing it from the very beginning, and we had the intention of bringing it to you, and so that you can hear what, this case. So he had already spent so much money in preparing the place, and he made it very beautiful. It's not just a regular convenience store. There's a lot of ethnic foods, Mediterranean foods, religious items. It's close by the church, and he's very religious as well. And it's a very clean store, and it attracts a lot of people from our parish. It attracts good people. And then we found out that he's unable to have beer and wine unless it's 12,000 square feet. And of course, he cannot afford to have a store that large. And it says also in the paperwork that we received that the city of Victorville is trying to encourage, good stores and, cleanliness, and sometimes having a store that sells alcohol attracts people that maybe we don't want. So anyway, he hasn't been able to sell a lot. He's not able to cover his costs. He is doing better day by day, but still he's falling short. So I want to read to you this letter. Dear Mayor and City Council members, while beer and wine are not the intended primary products of sale at Cedars Market, Inc., as the business's executive officers, we have come to realize that without them, our business will not succeed. Since our store opened in June, different residents from the area come in every day asking if we sell beer. And when we say no, many walk away, while others say, if you sell beer, we'll come to you every day. Those sales have slowly and steadily increased since we opened. We have not been able to break even for 1 month. Neighboring established businesses have recently introduced some of the products that we sell, thus keeping potential customers from entering our store. We are trying to succeed, But without providing our customers with what they want, we are losing them. The only reason we are still open is because of supportive family members and friends who cover the bills that we cannot, and we cannot keep burdening them. Concerning the overconcentration of alcoholic beverages, we have not identified any other on-sale, off-sale alcohol in our complex and shopping center, other than a Mexican restaurant which does not allow customers to take alcohol out of store to their homes. Though the Department of Alcohol Beverage Control sets a limit on the number of sales licenses based upon population and density, they have not capped off giving licenses in Victorville. And if Cedars Market Inc. is permitted to sell beer and wine, the spirit of ABC regulations and laws will be adequately upheld to ensure that public welfare and morale is not compromised. We take careful consideration in ensuring that our store is well maintained in its appearance and tidiness. Our goal is to ensure that Cedars Market Inc. attracts upstanding clientele who do not drink alcohol, and also those who do use alcohol responsibly, thus maintaining and participating in the order and safety of our city. As a growing city, we ask you to please consider our hardship pertaining to Title 16 standards. As small business owners, it is impossible for Cedars Market Inc. to occupy a store that is greater than 12,000 square feet, at which we would receive a license to sell alcohol. To financially maintain, improve, and prosper our business, we have particularly chosen the city of Victorville, which we hope will aid small business owners to flourish in a growing city. If not, we will be forced to close. We appreciate your consideration and cooperation. So, basically, we're asking if we can. We're trying to encourage small business owners and to have rules like having a store that's 12,000 square feet. Many people cannot afford such a business. But here's a young man who's finishing his studies in business, and he's trying to succeed, and just because he doesn't have enough, he's unable to even grow. But in the little space that he has, he's very responsible, very clean, very honest, and he's doing the best that he can. So I'm just trying to intercede on his behalf and ask the city if they can consider this rule and or make an exception. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, I close the public hearing. And do we have any requests or comments from council members?
I have a question. Madam Chair, I'd asked City Manager earlier if there was what distinguishes between the liquor store, which I think I know, but off-sale beer and wine and alcoholic beverages. I thought at one time that you could have beer and wine only. There was a license for that. And also then stores could have all kinds of what I call hard liquor, if that's appropriate definition. And I asked Doug today if they would be authorized to sell beer and wine only if it was approved by the council, or would they be authorized to sell beer and wine and hard liquor? And I'm sorry, I got part of the answer. The council didn't hear that. Doug, if you would, please.
Sure. There are two separate licenses through Alcoholic Beverage Control. One would be for only beer and wine. There's a different one that would add liquor to that. The city's current ordinance that was approved by the council, I want to say this past May or April or so, does not have any distinction at all with regard to the definition of a liquor store. It doesn't allow one or the other. It allows for no alcohol sales once an area has become overconcentrated by census tract. This store is in an area that is over-concentrated, and therefore it's not allowed per the current ordinance. That's why they're here before you, is to ask for essentially a variance for you to go outside of the ordinance that was approved this past May.
Now, is this decision made by ABC, or is that...
The
that
type
the-
of
so-
license they would apply with ABC, but they can't even apply because it's not allowed in this area, within this census
Right,
tract.
but ABC
by
controls the over-concentration of that particular area?
They don't necessarily control it. I don't know exactly what role ABC plays in that. It's something that we take a look at as to the number of liquor stores within that census tract.
I understand.
Can you explain this term over-concentration and what that means and what the details are that relate to this particular store?
I would prefer actually to call on a staff member. I don't know if it would be, looks like either Chris Borchard or Scott Webb to come down. They know the details far better than I do. I know kind of the higher level discussion on it. So, Chris, if you can explain exactly what over-concentration means and where we are for this,
Sure.
this track.
And I asked Justin to come up here. Justin Snyder with the Sheriff's Department. He was placed on the alcohol control team. We've been working with the Sheriff's Department for several years now, and we worked with them closely with the Planning Commission in coming up with these regulations. But over-concentration is the number of alcohol license in a certain specific area, the census tract. And I don't know if you know how many licenses it takes to be considered over-concentrated, or...
I'm not sure what the exact number is as far as over-concentration. However, that immediate intersection, which I believe is Palmdale Road and Olivado Road, there are already 3 off-sale beer and wine licensees, as well as an on-sale, which is a restaurant where you can drink there.
I thought I remembered from the staff report last month that there were 19 sites within this, whatever the boundaries of that region are.
Yes, the graphic I just gave you is the entire city, and the red is over-concentrated, the yellow would be close, and then the green is open. And that shows you Victorville total has 83 or 84, I believe, alcohol licenses where someone can go and buy alcohol and take it to their house, whether it's a grocery store or a liquor store. Over 50 of those are small-scale liquor stores.
Where is it located?
In the red area on Palmdale Road. This is near the corner of Olivado and Palmdale Road. It's in the old center there. It's the center with McDonald's and the Pizza Hut.
Be a Ralph's there.
Yes.
You know, I would ask you, but I don't even want to know regarding who represented you or the particular property owner on the lease of this facility to you. I would imagine that during that conversation, there was, hey, I would like to lease this facility, and this is what I'm going to put in there. The leasing agent should have done their due diligence and said to you, you know what, let me check that out with the city of Victorville and make sure that it's allowed. This has happened time and time again. This goes back to my days on the Planning Commission to present on the City Council. It is the most frustrating thing that we deal with up here. Quite frankly, had you known that, you would have never leased there because you would have already known that you couldn't do it. So from my perspective, I'm sorry that you were misrepresented in that fashion. I'm sorry that the property owner that leased the facility to you misrepresented that you could actually do that there, because we've had this policy in place and you know, kind of this thought in place for some time. The second thought is that I've got a planning commission. There's a purpose for them. They upheld a zoning administrator's decision on a 5-0 decision. That's what's come to us tonight. I can't overturn a planning commission on a 5-0 decision. I just won't do it. I really think you have a beef and a serious concern with who leased you that facility. They should have checked this out before they allowed you to sign on that line, because quite frankly, that would have saved you all this time and effort and expense And I know what you put into this because starting a business is not any small deal. But quite frankly, anybody that starts a business has to go through their due diligence, and those that have to lease facilities wherever they are in whatever municipality have to make sure that what they want to do there, it's zoned appropriately for. You can't just lease a facility and expect to be able to open up any kind of business in any area of any city in America, let alone Victorville. It has to be zoned appropriately, and there's always exceptions to the rule, but in the majority of the cases, that should be something that should fall on the person that's looking to open the business, as well as, in this case, the person that you're leasing from. Fortunately, based upon what I'm seeing here, they did not do that due diligence. So.
Okay, we will continue here. I'm sorry, you already spoke. So at this time, the motion? Is there some other discussion?
I'll move to deny the appeal.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, second by Mr. McEachran, to adopt the resolution denying the appeal. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Motion carries with Councilmember Negretti voting no.
The next item will be item B2.
B1, Mayor Garcia.
Oh, B1? Okay, somehow I think I have a different agenda and it's not giving me the right. Okay, B1, that's the ordinance of the City Council approving case DEB 15. Is that B1?
This would be the Municipal Code Amendment, proposed ordinance number 2346, item B1, under public hearings.
Can you, City Clerk, would you please read the title of ordinance 2346?
Mayor Garcia, it'd be appropriate to take any public testimony at this time. This is a hearing that was continued from October 6th.
Okay, somehow I think I have something that's not correct here. Okay, B1, I do have some cards. Do I have to open item B1?
You should reopen. It was a continued public hearing. You should open the hearing again,
Okay.
please.
I do open the public hearing for item B1. And I do have a card from Carlos Rodriguez.
Good evening, Mayor Garcia, members of the City Council. Tonight, I'm here on behalf of the Building Industry Association, Baldview Chapter, to urge support of ordinance number 2346 to modify standards related to single-family residential side yard setbacks, lot widths, and window placement within the single-family residential district citywide. As you know, the BIA worked closely for several months this year with the city staff and focus group. We appreciate the opportunity to have a collaborative discussion over those months and review this issue at length. As noted in the September 9th Planning Commission staff report, the majority of the focus group recommended the Planning Commission and City Council move forward with amendments to the city's single-family design guidelines that would encourage a variety of larger lot widths and side yard setbacks. This provides flexibility for developers without imposing a rigid standard. After careful consideration and deliberation, the Planning Commission voted unanimously earlier this year in support of a code amendment which provides flexible guidelines encouraging a variety of larger widths and lot widths and side yard setbacks. So we urge the City Council this evening to support the staff and Planning Commission's recommendation to adopt draft ordinance number 2346 as written. BIA strongly believes that the code amendment as written is the best option to encourage new quality development. without implementing a one-size-fits-all approach. Support of this ordinance, coupled with the previously adopted design guidelines and development standards back in January, will significantly increase the quality of new home development in Victorville. And I just, again, want to say how the focus group has worked in conjunction with staff. Tonight you have the opportunity to look at essentially what the Planning Commission has voted on unanimously, and ultimately that's for your consideration, and we're urging you to really, when you look at what's being proposed tonight, it's far from status quo. It again represents a significant upgrade in new home development in the years to come, and if you take tonight's opportunity to vote in support of this ordinance, again, coupled with what was done in January, you have raised the bar significantly higher here in the great city of Victorville, and so we would urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next card that I have is Bill Cooper.
Mayor Garcia, members of the commission, I'm Bo Cooper with United Engineering Group. I'm here tonight in support of item B1 and the recommended code amendment language that was discussed in our focus group meetings and approved 5-0 by the Planning Commission. I believe this amended language complements the revised design guidelines that were adopted in February and encourages builders to bring forward wider lots and increase separation between buildings. When incorporated with curvilinear streets, revised cul-de-sac standards, which were all in those new design guidelines, a lot of the cul-de-sac language and new guidelines were to implement the larger fan lots around the cul-de-sacs. These were all part of the newly adopted guidelines in February. The end result of this will lead to wider lots and more elbow room, as it was described in our focus group meetings. In a comparison of existing tentative maps that my firm had entitled between 2004 and 2007, we had found that a majority of those lots already averaged a lot width of 66 feet, which is enough to accommodate RV parking and the larger side yards, if so desired. Incorporating these newly adopted guidelines will no doubt increase that average lot size further. Furthermore, the proposed amendment will give builders the flexibility to vary their footprint placement on each lot, which would allow for a wider variety of product types and building separation throughout each neighborhood. Again, I strongly believe the code amendment language, which was developed by the focus group, approved unanimously by the Planning Commission and before you today, is the best option for the city moving forward and the building community, and I strongly urge you to approve item B1 as written.
Thank you. The next one is Jennifer Chung.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. My name is Jennifer Chung, and I'm here on behalf of Pacific Communities. I'd like to present some recent market data that we've collected in support of flexible guidelines for side yard setbacks and lot widths. In addition to Victorville, we also looked at Hesperia and Apple Valley as a point of comparison. I'd like to direct your attention to the first page of the handout, which shows the resale price by zip code. This data was collected from CoreLogic's August real estate data report. Interestingly, Apple Valley, which has the largest lots from half an acre and up, has the lowest median home prices among the three cities. Moving to the second page, the chart shows the price by lot size increment. This data was collected from Redfin in September, and as you can see here, the value of the home increases as expected as lot size increases, but only up to about 7,500 square feet. Surprisingly, after this point, the value of the home actually decreases as lot size increases. We attribute this to the fact that buyers prefer bigger lots when they are trying to move up from a 4,000 to 5,000 square foot lot. However, at 7,000 to 8,000 square feet lots, buyers feel that they've had enough yard already, so that any extra yard square footage is a negligible benefit, if not a burden on homeowners. On the last page is one of our recent projects in Moreno Valley. The floor plan is on the back of the sheet. This is currently our most popular plan with a master down and a optional guest suite on the ground floor. This plan illustrates the width we need inside the house in order to achieve all these functions, which may not be achieved with bigger setbacks in thinner homes. As a firm, we do our best to create and promote a good product that we believe home buyers want. But we need the city's help in order to compete with similar projects in other cities. This concludes my presentation. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Another card, Adam Collier.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, fellow council members. My name is Adam Collier. I'm a project manager with the Lewis Group of Companies. I'm responsible for managing the design and development and construction of all of our master plan communities in Upland, Rancho Cucamonga, as well as Rialto. So I have a lot of experience in dealing with master plan communities. I've also done some, in my previous life as a city planner, did some planning work up here in the high desert as well. From my experience in reviewing the issues that we've been discussing with the city over the past couple of years, the language that's before you tonight is most likely the most appropriate way to deal with these types of issues. You know, as a focus group, we're learning from you guys. What are your concerns? What are your issues with how we're developing the products that we're building, you know, for the community? And we're learning what challenges you guys are having. And we think that, you know, as we're talking about the side yard setbacks, we're talking about the lot sizes, this type of language that you guys are proposing is the most appropriate way to deal with that. And as a development community, we understand that these are your concerns, and moving forward, we want to prove to you, using these guidelines, that we can build a product that the city is happy with for generations to come. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I don't see anyone else that needs to come up and speak. Therefore, I will close the public hearing. Have any comments or?
Yes, I have a comment. Appreciate everyone's input on this, and as I've stated before, when you start talking about city government influencing industries, going away from best practices, start coming into slippery slope issues, even when you're talking about a 12,000 square foot convenience store. And obviously working with the stakeholders in the industry when things like this come up, I really appreciate the staff's work and the stakeholders involved working together. So thank you for coming out tonight.
Anyone else?
Yes. The original staff report that went to the focus group, which I was not a member of the focus group at that time, originally called for a recommendation to move the setbacks, the side setbacks, from 5 and 10 feet to 5 and 15. The idea was to increase the space between houses. I supported that staff proposal. The focus group did not. I was disappointed in that decision. Took it to the Planning Commission. Staff made this recommendation to encourage developers to widen their lots. And the Planning Commission voted 5-0 in support of that. I've been working with small builders since I started in the public accounting business in 1970. I know exactly what motivates small builders and large builders. They're motivated by exactly the same goal that motivates me, which is to generate a profit in my business. Now, I understand that, and we all need to understand that. There's nothing wrong with that. I also believe that virtually every problem that we've dealt with in this city over the last 20 years has been the result of the quality of the residential development in this community since 1995. We had about 50,000 homes, 50,000 people in the city of Victorville in 1995. Today we have 120, more or less. I believe the problems we deal with in this community is because these developments have been entirely too dense. I believe that. Now, you may or may not agree with me. This may be a classic case of tilting at windmills on this council. I don't know. We're going to find out in a minute. This recommendation to encourage builders to widen their lots or to create wider space between the homes is a toothless code. That's what it is. There is no enforcement. There's no requirement. They will do exactly as they choose to do. And I am confident there are some builders who will build houses with wider setbacks. I'm absolutely certain of that. I just don't see that there's any evidence of the builders we've experienced here for the last 20 years are going to be in that group. So my preference would be to go back to the original recommendation to move to 5 and 15 on new developments, not the developments that are already vested. And I'm not going to waste everybody's time. I'm just going to make that as a motion and see where it goes. That we send this back to staff with a recommendation for side setbacks of 5 and 15. Don't bother with the Planning Commission. It doesn't have to go to the Planning Commission. Bring it back to the council. That's my motion.
Mayor Garcia, I also sat on the focus group with Councilmember Kennedy, and although he wasn't on it originally, he came on after Councilmember Baez decided not to run. And you know, I understand and hear his concerns. I think that, you know, we're taking a step forward in what we've done earlier this year with residential design guidelines, and this is taking another step forward. Is it to the level that it ought to be? I don't know. I think that time will tell, but understanding that a lot of what we saw that happened during the boom had nothing to do with any one of us up here, let alone our existing planning commission. It's hard for me to say that somehow we got to fix a problem that we did not create. It is something that we've got to work through. I think the focus group has worked. I think that the council in establishing the focus group was an appropriate step. It allowed members of this council as well as the planning commission to work with members of the industry to work through a lot of those issues. There's no silver bullet here. We cannot solve all the problems that ail us here in Victorville through the increase of lot sizes, which we've already discussed and I think is a dead issue, or through the increase of setbacks. There's got to be more of a holistic approach, and this gets us moving in that direction. I don't know that it solves the problems long term. We've got, as a council, we have a lot of other issues that we're going to have to grapple with in the coming years that go beyond how a home is built in the city. Because quite frankly, and I'll go back and a little nod of my hat to Doug Robertson on fiscalization of land use, and talking about that and how do you pay for roads and emergency services and all that based upon every single home that's built. It's a difficult nexus. How do you get there? But we have gone through a process, although it may not be perfect. We have gone through a process that sat 2 members of this council, 2 members of our planning commission, brought staff and industry together. We got to this point. We recommended something to the planning commission. The planning commission approved it 5-0. Again, going back to our previous decision, If we can't lean on our own planning commission to make those recommendations to this council, then we ought not to have them here. So if we're going to do our own thing, then I suggest we do away with the planning commission. Other than that, I think what the planning commission has recommended is the best case scenario. And quite frankly, if it doesn't work or we don't see progress in this realm, I'll be the first one to bring it back, because I want to see and experience development based upon these new guidelines and standards and recommendations. And although the word encourage doesn't set anything in stone, I do believe that those builders out there that are going to build in Victorville as we go forward will look at this and understand it, and I think staff will hold them to that example. So from my perspective, I would like to obviously encourage the council and through a motion ask that the city clerk read into record the ordinance to adopt ordinance 2346 and waive further reading.
I want to second that, but I want to make some comments.
Okay.
I'd like to go back and cover a little bit of history, if I might, and I'm not going to take a long time. A member of the past member of the council recommended 10,000 square foot lots because when the economy dropped, we had some kind of instant ghettos. And if you went out and went through those neighborhoods, you very quickly could see why. And I believe 3 different times I stated for the record I didn't have a problem with the 7,200 square foot lot. And I'm always amazed when I get some credit for wanting larger lots, and I defy anybody to find that on the official records of the city. It's just simply not true. But I did take a tour of the city, and I can show you where our city rules provide that there is a curb face. 10 feet behind the curb face is where the property line begins, 20-foot setback. Nor did I ever indicate that there ought to be a greater setback. But I can show you where houses are less than 30 feet from the curb, and no one can explain why. In some cases, they're 2 and 3 feet closer to the curb than they ought to be. And supposedly it was some kind of an agreement that had been worked out by the past council where they encouraged growth. And I still believe that that will never occur again based upon the current rules, because the current rules are very clear. 7,200 square foot lots, very clear 20-foot front setback. There's no problem with that. And then I also encourage people to go look at a particular neighborhood that have 5-foot and 15-foot setbacks on the houses so that you can get in the backyard, and they are 7,200 square foot lots. But for some reason that I didn't explain that very clearly, and so therefore we have neighborhoods with older boats and broken down cars and sitting in the driveway and the side yards and on the grass because they can't get in the backyard. In looking at the subdivisions where we had the wider side yards, it didn't make any difference in the quality, quantity, or size of house. It makes no difference in the resale of the house. It makes it awfully convenient for the neighborhood that the wider side yard, although it's still 7,200 square foot, makes it convenient if you can get to the backyard, so that for those individuals who do have recreational trailers and so forth, they can be moved to the backyard. In fact, this particular neighborhood that has the 5-foot and the 15-foot is rather a nicer neighborhood than the standard neighborhoods that have 5-foot side yards on each side of the house. That all fell by the wayside because of politics and pure politics, and people began saying things that weren't true and began pushing for something different because of the problems that we currently have. During that whole process, I tried to take an absolute neutral position because I was the mayor at the time, and felt that if we had a committee where we had all the players at the table who had something at stake other than just opinions, although we made it very clear that we were open to opinions from people who live in those neighborhoods, that there would be a resolution. When that recommendation went to the Planning Commission, I, like Ryan McEachran, and I believe most members of this council, rely on the Planning Commission. They play a major role. And they studied this, and it came out as a 5-0 vote, as I understand it, for the council to adopt this ordinance. I did not like, on first glance, that no one came up with some rules that's easily to follow, but simply encouraged. I encourage the building industry to build million-dollar homes. It's toothless. It doesn't mean anything. But in talking to builders, and I represented for 4 years the building community, one of the things that came out of this is a recognition by the individuals that I have talked to in the building community that the city council and the city is concerned with what has happened in the past. And while we have over 15,000 square foot lots, 15,000 lots, that have already been approved, it wouldn't make any difference what we really did. It wouldn't have an effect in our lifetime because of the approvals that are already there. But my understanding is that builders have seen the problem. They understand what we're trying to accomplish. They understand that if we don't clean the city up and make it a better place to live, work, and play, there's not going to be any growth. And I am encouraged that they were willing to sit down with the committee and the Planning Commission and work out what I believe is a step forward that will be positive. I may be wrong. I hope not. But it's a step forward, and time will tell. And I encourage the Planning Commission and the staff and the building industry to work together. And together we can make this a better city, better neighborhoods, and I think that we will all profit from that. And so on the basis of the fact that this has gone through all of those discussions, committee and the Planning Commission, and the fact that the Planning Commission did vote 5-0 is why I'm willing to second this for adoption and urge council to adopt it. I also believe that because of the extensive work that's done, it's not a dead issue. Staff encourages different things to occur, and none of them occur. I think it's a guarantee that this matter will be back before the City Council. I think, though, that the changes will be made. I encourage the building community to do that, and I think that will occur. And if that does, we're all going to be pleased, and this matter will never come back before us. So with that, I encourage the City Council to adopt this ordinance.
Anyone else?
I'll read the title of the ordinance.
Yes, please.
Ordinance number 2346, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Victorville approving case DEV 15-00009, a Title 16 Municipal Code amendment with an environmental exemption modifying standards relating to single-family residential side yard setbacks, lot widths, and window placement within the single-family residential district citywide. There was a motion by Mr. McEachran, second by Mr. Cox, to waive further reading and introduce. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Motion carries with Mr. Kennedy voting no.
Before we move on, I have a quick comment.
Okay.
I've sat through these meetings so many times, and then before getting elected, I heard many of the concerns out there, and I think they're misguided concerns about what happened to this city. Okay, this city is a great city for folks that are starting families, looking for value. Maybe they commute, maybe they don't commute. That is not the situation of everyone on this council. I understand that. But there are places in the high desert to move if you want higher lots. There is no correlation, and I ask anyone in the city staff or anyone else to show a correlation between lot sizes and crime or foreclosures or whatever happens to be the case. But it's often cited. So we do have best practices. We do have a lot of good things going on here. What we need is jobs. And then those different types of housing opportunities are gonna appear. That's called market segmentation. This community started off a certain way, and it's always been a value proposition. Now, if you want to go to the next level, we've got a lot of things. How about sidewalks? How about proper drainage? Okay, we have a lot of priorities. And again, I'm going to keep saying it, and it's hollow. We need a strategic planning session, and priorities will be outlined. But this is not a priority for me. We have a lot of issues here. We need to promote a prosperous business environment and get things back on track, and things are. From what I'm seeing out there, things are getting better. So we're not where we were in 2009. We don't have to keep scapegoating. We don't have to keep saying that so-and-so is to blame. We're pulling out of that, and we're still holding on to it, and we're wasting time talking about this. Side yard setbacks. Okay. I'll be happy to keep talking, keep saying my same point. But I need some facts here, not outrageous claims.
Anyone else? Okay, we move on to item B2. Request to vacate, abandon unneeded public right-of-way and improvements set forth in proposed resolution number 15-068, entitled A Resolution of the City Council of the City of Victorville, California, ordering the vacation abandonment of that improved public street cul-de-sac known as Palacier Court. I open the public hearing, and I do not have any cards. I don't know if there's anyone that would like to come up and speak. If not, I close the public hearing. And do we have any comments from council members?
Well, I think this goes to a good thing, right? Keith and Doug, we're looking at the expanding of an auto dealership, which has been sorely needed over there. It's not often that we do away with a road, though. So, and Ron Pellisier probably wouldn't be all too happy about that, but unfortunately, this is to the betterment for Victorville and what we're seeing.
Yeah, the roadway will still be there, but it'll become a driveway rather than a public road.
Will
So-
he still have his sign?
No, the sign will not be
Okay.
there.
That's what I thought. I'll go ahead and move approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McEachran, second by Mr. Kennedy to adopt Resolution 15-068. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. Motion carries unanimously.
Now we move on to consent calendar. Items C1 through C8 can be approved with one motion unless someone wants to pull one for discussion.
There's no items pulled for discussion. I move approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Cox, second by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Abstain.
Motion carries with Mr. Negretti abstaining.
Oh, wait, were there minutes in the consent calendar where I was not present?
Yes, the last meeting, the
I'll
October 20th.
abstain
On the approval of the
any
minutes.
where I wasn't present.
Okay, I'll note that for the record.
I wasn't present either, so somebody else needs to second.
Station for those who didn't want to hear for the minutes?
I don't know
Second.
that we actually, on minutes,
It's not required,
have
no.
to be here.
It's not required
vote
to
on
abstain,
minutes.
no.
So you're
It's
okay
not.
if you vote on minutes.
Okay, I'll vote on the minutes.
Are we okay on that one? No? Okay.
One.
Now we move on to item D1, written communications. The purchase of a John Deere landscape loader 2210L.
I'll go ahead and move approval on that.
One question, and this actually applies to D1 and D2. We're buying the new units. What happens to the old ones? Do we scrap them? Do we sell them? Do we keep them as backup? Anybody know?
It depends on those units. For these specific units,
These are two pretty big ones.
I'd ask Doug Matthews to come up and comment, but we may do any one of those three things, actually, depending on what the units are. But Doug, can you speak specifically to these? I think these are past their useful life. In fact, we can
Would
no
someone
longer
else
use
want to buy them
the
from us?
equipment.
Yeah, the big issue here is emissions, and they're pretty much timed out. We have a replacement schedule for the whole city for our off-road equipment. We do try and surplus them. We do work with the dealers to sell them out of state because we can't sell them in state because of the emissions. So the big challenge is emissions more than anything, although they are, the age is up there and replacement parts would get tougher and tougher. Otherwise, we could use them in other departments as well, but our fleet as a whole has to be considered for the horsepower and off-road emissions.
Thank you.
Motion by Mr. McEachran, second by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. Motion carries unanimously.
Item D2, purchase of a, I hope I said right, Hecker Equipment Company CNG Vector 2110 plus jet rotor.
Again, I'll move for approval on this one.
Motion by Mr. McEachran, second by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Motion carries with Mr. Negrete opposed.
Item D3, proposed city council member offices. And any recommendation is at the discretion of the city council. I myself believe that since the city has been incorporated for 53 years, it has never been necessary for any council member to have an individual office. Therefore, my perspective on this item is that we do not need individual offices for city council members.
I agree with that. I think our joint office is fine.
I disagree. I think it's woefully inadequate. It's a joke. Actually, I showed up for a meeting one time, and 2 council members closed the door. So whether I had materials to get to or not, I had to wait for their whatever meeting they were talking about to be concluded so that I could get ready for the meeting. It's just a small thing. I see some of the offices back there were storage areas. And that's fine. You know what? I brought up this issue, but it's a joke.
Well, I'm awfully sorry about that, but you could have actually knocked and informed them that you needed to go in, because I don't think we would do that, keep anyone from going in to their office at any time. I do apologize for that. So what is our recommendation?
I don't think any recommendation is being made. At this point in time, it doesn't appear that a recommendation is necessary.
Then we just move on? Okay. Item D4, award of contract for Amethyst Road and Hook Boulevard traffic signal. Elecnor Belco. City Clerk, would you read the recommendation on that one?
The recommendation is that the City Council appropriate an additional expense of $41,400 from Fund 230, the Local Transportation Fund, and award a construction contract in the amount of $401,583 to Elecnor Belco for the Amethyst Road and Hook Boulevard traffic signal.
Approval.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, second by Mr. McEachran. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. Motion carries unanimously.
Item D5, award of contract for Turner Wash drainage improvements, Duffy Brothers, Inc. City Clerk, read the recommendation, please.
Recommendation is that the City Council appropriate an additional $100,000 from Fund 202, Storm Drain Utility, and $100,000 from Fund Number 425, Sewer, and award a contract to O'Duffy Brothers, Inc. in the amount of $251,200.40 for the Turner Wash culvert improvements.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McEachran, second by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. Motion carries unanimously.
Now we move on to public comments. Item E1, and I do have a couple of cards here. The first one is Robert Harriman.
Evening, Council. I just have a couple things I'd like to talk about. Number one, in regards to the setback, I didn't get a card in early enough to make a comment. I was a member of the focus group also, so there was a citizen there. And I'm here to tell you, Mr. Negretti, that a setback does make a difference. I can't even park in the front of my house sometimes because none of my neighbors have room to park their vehicles. Okay? And if we're going to, if things are going to continue to go in the way the path they're going, I come from the city of San Dimas, very clean, but you have to have a parking permit to park overnight on the street. Okay? If you're going to park your piece of junk in front of your house because you don't have room or a setback to do it, therein lies the problem. Okay? So I do believe having more of a choice of, everyone keeps talking about, people buy these houses and then it's too much for them to take care of. Well, then what the hell do they buy the house for? That's sheer stupidity, in my opinion. So, we're going to have to talk about parking permits then. If you want to live in a planned unit development and think that you can park 3 cars in the street, then your head's not screwed on right. It deteriorates the neighborhood. Some of these cars have weeds growing up because they don't move it for the street cleaner. So we got to look at that, okay? So I beg to differ with Mr. Negretti. Second is Amethyst and Hook Signal. That's great. But what happened to Amethyst and North Star? Much more traffic there. There's no homes. Amethyst and Hook, Public Works or the gentleman that did the testing that is now retired, I don't recall his name. He specifically called me and told me after testing the intersection of Amethyst and North Star that it was a valid and intersection and did need a signal. So I would ask that we look into that. That's a much heavier traveled intersection than Hook and Amethyst. That's one. North Star is 1 block off Bear Valley Road, and I can't remember the figure, but I believe he said there were almost 10,000 vehicles a day in that intersection. There's school bus stops right there, and there are no pedestrian crosswalks. Thank you.
Thank you. One more card. Norman Miller.
Oh, well. Mayor Garcia, council members, my name's Norman Miller, and I just wanted to bring up, I hate to say it, but I think we've been here, my wife and I, longer than any of the council members and maybe almost anybody in the audience here. And when we first started coming here, the public comment was always at the beginning of the meeting. And I didn't think much about that, but now that it got changed, I see where it bothers me that you get a large audience in here because of something, and a recent example would be the e-cigarettes. You got a whole bunch of people in here that are going through this whole meeting waiting to speak at the end of it. And I just think it'd be nice if you could bring up that to the beginning of the meetings, the public comment, rather than at the end, where everybody has to wait until all this goes through before they can say their 2 cents worth. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have reports from city manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Last week we hosted for the San Bernardino County Fire the El Nino Prep meeting. We are planning another similar meeting for more of the city here in the very near future. From what I've heard, that meeting was very well attended, especially the initial for internal operators meeting was standing room only. I had another meeting I had to attend for the bicycle tour, so I was unable to attend the public meeting that night, but we had several staff members there who were pretty impressed with the speakers that we had. Some of them maybe were more technical than necessary, teaching a college class almost on meteorology, but overall it was very well received and a lot of good information was given out at that. So we are planning another meeting along similar lines. Upcoming events this Thursday, we got a busy day. God and Country breakfast at 7 a.m. and then 6 p.m. is a Desert Fiat grand opening. Looking forward to both of those events. A week from tomorrow is Veterans Day. City Hall, most city offices will be closed, but we will have the Veterans Day Parade, which is kind of expanded on both the front end and back end this year. We actually have a 1 mile freedom run that will essentially start the parade. Starting 8:45 at the end of the parade, runners will run the half-mile parade route to the start. They get to the start, turn around, and run back to the finish line. Once the last runner has made that turn, then the parade will actually start, estimating about 9 o'clock in the morning for the parade to start. Immediately following the parade...
Excuse me, Doug, Norm, could you hang on a minute before you leave? Just wait. Thanks. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Immediately following the parade, we have a ribbon cutting and dedication for a veterans relaxation garden, which has been installed by veterans, city staff, and generous donation from the Home Depot Corporation. That'll all be on November 11th, so we're looking forward to that. And then a little bit of long-range planning. December 5th is our Christmas parade, which is run by the Kiwanis Club, and then in the evening, that same Saturday, is our tree lighting ceremony, and we have a little mini festival, and we're hoping that some of the floats from the Christmas parade will be driven over to be able to be viewed at the tree lighting ceremony. That's all I have. Madam Mayor, just wanted to mention one thing to Norm. In case you'd forgotten, Norm, our meetings used to start at 7 o'clock. We had a closed section from 5 to 7. And after all the presentations and the stuff we did, the pledge and the prayer and so on, public comment usually got underway about 7:30 and ran until about anywhere 8:30, and the people with business sat through all the public comment. It is right now 7:31, and public comment is completed. So in that respect, we moved the meeting to 6. We made it no later for public comment than it originally was. I think we deserve some attaboy for that. Go home now. It's okay.
Madam Mayor, at the meeting that Doug Robinson was talking about, where we had a good crowd here for the public, we started out a little shaky because there's some small children in the back that were making real loud.
I was very polite.
Very polite, very polite. But had to remind those individuals that it was disrupting. And I know that we have an overflow room, can be set up or maybe is set up. I think there's a view it from there. The speakers are in there and everything. And so one of the things I would suggest is that we post in the lobby someplace, somehow, that people that have children invited to attend the other one. Because those individuals, as far as I know, there was 2 couples.
Yes.
One left, and the other went to that room. And I'm not sure that they even knew that that was available. We're trying to get people to attend to watch the proceedings, but while we don't want it to disrupt all the council, we still don't want them to have to leave, and so some kind of a sign would be very helpful for those individuals. I think it would be helpful even for those individuals that simply want a little more peace and quiet, when we have large crowds. So if that's possible, I'd like to see staff put the sign up, alert everyone to that option.
Thank you. Yeah, that's very good.
Just a couple comments. Had the opportunity this last Saturday, or I think it was the city cleanup, white cleanup was going on, and I got to go around to a few spots and thank the folks that were cleaning up the city. But one thing that was interesting to note is that because we've been so effective on this, and Christian, hats off to you and your folks, in recruiting volunteers to do this on a biannual basis, they're finding less and less trash, which is an interesting dynamic to hear. I mean, some of the stuff you still see them collect out there is fascinating, and I don't even want to get into some of the stuff that's my number one question when I go around to these groups is, what did you find, and what's the most interesting thing you found? And there's all kinds of things that they're finding out there in the desert, which obviously shouldn't be out there. But the overwhelming response I did hear from the groups that I did go and visit and thank was that they're finding less and less trash, and these are the same groups that do it year in and year out. So that's very encouraging. Secondly, I just want to thank Councilmember Kennedy for representing us so well on VVWRA. We received, or at least I received, as well as I'm sure he did, and possibly Mayor Pro Tem Cox, a 6-page memo today explaining away change orders at VVWRA, and I could really care less about it. It's just ridiculous. This project in the Upper Narrows, that this tunneling going on underneath 7th Street, we have businesses closing down. I've stated it before, I'll state it again. I think it's gone way beyond anything that we ever would allow in our city, yet it's happening right within our own boundaries, and we have very little that we can do about it. Yet we fund VVWRA somewhere between 60 and 70%. We, as taxpayers in the city of Victorville, fund that organization to that level. I'm still convinced that this council, and to what extent we need to go into this at some point in the future, I leave to the entire council. But I think we need to start having a conversation about this, because this is just unprecedented. We wouldn't allow our own water district to do this. We wouldn't allow our own municipal utility to do this. And Doug, as I stated before, if you ever allowed this to go on, your head would be on the chopping block. The fact of the matter is that these change orders and the length of time that this has taken to get done is just gotten to a point of being absolutely ridiculous. But I did want to at least publicly state and thank Councilmember Kennedy for his representation of our city on that board. Just wish the other members of that board would listen to you.
Well, Ryan, I have to say, I think they did at the last VVWRA meeting. They did not vote no on $500,000 of change orders to the construction manager's contract, but they did decide not to vote on it. They did decide to delay it and get better support and better documentation. So they're paying some attention. If I had my way, we wouldn't have any more meetings, we wouldn't have any more memos, we would just get the job done, okay? But I don't rule that. I was asked to give the council an update on the water rate study, where that project is. If you recall, what was it, Doug, 2 months ago, month and a half, 2 months ago? I kind of created a problem by sort of slamming the brakes on that discussion because I had real serious doubts and concerns about the base numbers that they were starting from. Staff has worked with a consultant. There's been a lot of progress on that. Today we had a lengthy meeting, about 2 hours, maybe 2.5, with the consultant, with members of our staff, and discussing that project and where it is now and where we should go from here. And as a result of that conversation, we made some changes. I will tell you this, I think we have come to a meeting of the minds on the revenue number, and I think the number the consultant brought us in the beginning was a pretty sound number. and I'm comfortable with it. But basically, we've seen our revenues drop from 23 million to 20 million based just in the last few months because of the drought and the mandate from the state. I had concerns and expressed them about the cost estimates because I felt that all the rate study was based on cost estimates, all of which rose on a straight line upwards over the next 9 years while revenue remained dead flat. And to me, that's not how I would run my business. I don't know that makes sense. So I asked them to please go back and sharpen the pencil and dig into those numbers and make sure that if there are going to be cost increases, we can justify them to this council. And some of that is inflationary, and some of it is. Some of those costs tend to be much more variable with the production of water and the sale of water. Some costs are the system, and we can't shrink the system because people are using less water. So a lot of those costs are fixed. Here's what I think is going to come, and I'm going to ask the council to take a particular, I'm going to ask for consensus on this, actually. I think we will recommend, you notice I'm taking a little ownership of this whole effort. I think we will recommend a rate increase, if for no other reason, because we've got $50 million of capital projects that must be done over the next 5 to 10 years. 46 million of that is a replacement of old water lines. We've got some 4-inch and 6-inch and 8-inch lines in this system that are 50 years old. Now that's just asking for trouble. Some of them might blow. That's a big catastrophe that everybody notices. But worse, many of them are just leaking water into the ground. We're losing it because those lines are old. That's a project that has to be scheduled and worked out. So we know that's going to have to be done. Mr. Cox is going to be very pleased with this recommendation because it's going to fundamentally change the structure of our rates. We're going to go to I think this will be the result, we'll go to a higher fixed portion, a much smaller variable portion, and the fixed portion will not be based on how much water you use, it'll be based on the size of your meter, because the size of your meter determines the flow that you need as a user, which in turn determines the size of the system. So there's some real logic to building that fixed rate portion around the size of your meter. I'm not going to give you any predictions about who's going to pay more, who's going to pay less. We're going to raise rates, but not everybody's bill is going to go up. That, I think, will be one of the consequences. What I want to propose to the council is that we schedule a 2-hour workshop from 3 to 5, not at this dais. We never get good workshops sitting at this dais. The best one we ever had was in the conference room. Public's invited, but we'll all sit around a circular table where we can see each other and talk to each other. The staff and the consultant will present their recommendation. There's a huge amount of backup detail. And in our discussion today, every time I asked a question, the response was, well, go look at this slide, because this one has that. And interestingly enough, the detail that supported that number was there. So they have the background. It's just not something we can do very well sitting up here on a dais, okay? So I'm going to suggest that we plan to do that. I'd like to do it from 3 to 5 before a council meeting, before a closed session. We think in 2 hours we can cover it. And I think we will all be impressed with the quality of the work that's been done, and we will see the logic of the recommendations, and we will I'm confident we're going to see the need to make these changes. So that's an update. Okay? Can we have could we get consensus on that?
Good with that. I'm fine with that.
Thank you.
Since Mr. Kennedy mentioned water, I read an article in the newspaper today. It didn't appear very accurate regarding Victorville. I asked Doug Robertson if he'd like to respond, and wants to respond. I want the council to understand that we need to respond to that. I want the council to agree to that. Responds, and we normally don't get involved in other cities' issues, but when they start throwing stones at us, we have to answer.
Anyone else? If not, this meeting is adjourned.